The morning after Patricia Harper buried her grandfather, the men at the diner were already laying odds on how fast she'd fail.
A blind girl ain't running no dairy. She'll be broke before the frost.
The other farmers laughed. Ronald had the largest dairy in the county, and the loudest opinion. At the graveside, Patricia stood alone with a white cane, listening to the wind move through the field. Her grandfather had worked for 40 years. 2 days later, she stepped into the dark barn. 40 Jersey cows shifted in their stalls, their warmth and smell filling the space.
Patricia, you are a good woman, but this is a working farm. The co-op can help you sell while the herd still holds value.
I am not selling, Mr. Benson.
Be reasonable. I'll give you 40 cents on the dollar for the herd right now. More than you'll get after they starve.
They won't starve. I'll manage.
That afternoon, alone in the barn, Patricia pressed her hand against the warm flank of the first cow and listened to its steady breath. Over the next 2 weeks, Patricia mapped every inch of the barn in her head. She counted steps between stalls, the height of each gate, the texture of the floor in the milking parlor.
8 steps to the first stall, 12 to the milking pit. I don't need eyes to see this place.
She learned to identify each cow by the sound of its hoof on concrete, the rhythm of its breathing, the warmth of its flank.
Daisy's flank is warmer than usual this morning. I'll check again tonight.
Morning after morning, she worked alone, her hands learning what her eyes never would. From the fence line, Ronald watched. He saw a blind girl talking to cows, and he saw profit slipping away.
You are going to lose this farm, Patricia. My offer stands. 50 cents on the dollar, and I'll take the risk off your hands.
I've already got someone managing my risk, Ronald. Me.
You are a fool. The co-op's going to cut you off when your quality tanks.
Then they'll have to do it to my face. Goodbye, Ronald.
3 days later, during the morning milking, Patricia stopped at a young Jersey heifer and pressed her stethoscope to its chest. The breath caught, a faint stumble on the exhale.
That's not nerves. That's fluid, deep in the lung.
She called Dr. Harris and described the sound in precise clinical detail. Harris came that afternoon, running his hands over the heifer's ribs, listening with his own stethoscope.
Patricia, there's nothing wrong here. No fever, no crackle. This cow is fine. I know what I heard, doctor. I am moving her to isolation anyway.
She isolated the heifer, gave her a warm bran mash, and checked her hourly through the night. 3 days later, the heifer's breathing was clear, her appetite strong. No illness ever developed.
Probably just a passing thing. Don't go thinking you are a miracle worker.
Patricia didn't argue. She wrote the date and the sound in her notebook. Something was there, and she would find it again. 6 weeks later, the lab printout arrived. Patricia ran her finger over the Braille transcript. Her somatic cell count had fallen below 50,000, lower than any other farm in the county.
50,000. Last month, it was 200. The listening is working.
Mr. Benson called her into the co-op office, his voice tight with something that wasn't quite praise.
Patricia, these numbers are unusual. We need to understand how you're managing this.
She's getting lucky with a few cows. Wait till the whole herd gets exposed.
It's not luck, Ronald. I know my cows.
You can't know what you can't see. But fine, take your bonus. It won't last.
She took the bonus check and walked back to her barn where 39 healthy Jerseys chewed their cud in contented silence. Across the fence line, Ronald's herd was not so quiet. 3 cows had dropped condition, their coats dull, their milk production falling. He didn't call the vet, he just stared at Patricia's barn and told himself the numbers would correct themselves. The call came on a Tuesday. A neighboring dairy had lost 3 cows to mastitis in a week, and Dr. Harris had missed the early signs. He remembered Patricia's heifer, the faint stumble on the exhale, and his own dismissive words. Something cold settled in his stomach.
Patricia, I know I was short with you before. Show me what you did. Start with your hands, not your eyes. Feel the heat difference on the flank.
She placed his palm against the cow's side, then moved it lower. That's an infection starting. The skin tells me before the lab does.
There's no swelling yet. How could you possibly? I listen. The breathing changes when the immune system starts to fight, weeks before a mass culture would catch it. I owe you an apology. I've never seen anyone do what you do.
For the next 2 hours, she walked him through her checklist. Hoof sound, breath pattern, flank warmth, udder texture. He took notes. The first crack in professional doubt had finally appeared, and it ran deeper than either of them knew. The next morning, Patricia walked the barn with Dr. Harris watching, pausing at each cow to smell its breath. At the third stall, she stopped cold.
Acetone. That's ketosis. This one's burning fat too fast. She needs propylene glycol now. Without a blood test? You are sure?
He drew blood and sent it to the lab, still shaking his head. Patricia continued her rounds, her hands moving with practiced certainty across each cow's flank. By that afternoon, the lab results confirmed her diagnosis in 3 different cows. Harris sat in his truck and stared at the paper. Word spread quietly through the veterinary circle. Patricia Harper was not lucky. She was a diagnostic force. Her milk production climbed to a record 44 liters a day per cow. Across the fence, Ronald's cows grew thinner. He still didn't call. At the co-op, the talk turned ugly. 2 farmers laughed by the bulk tank, saying it was impossible for a blind woman to run a clean dairy.
Benson, you need to check her operation. Nobody's that clean without cutting corners.
We run the same tests for everyone, Ronald. Her numbers don't lie.
But Ronald pushed harder, his voice carrying through the office. He wanted an inspection. Benson came the next morning, walking her barn with a clipboard. Patricia guided him through each stall, explaining her routine.
I don't see the cows, Mr. Benson. I hear them. That's not cheating.
He noted the clean stalls, the fresh bedding, the quiet confidence of a woman who knew every animal by heart. His report found no shortcuts, no violations, just the lowest somatic cell count he'd ever seen.
You've earned this bonus, Patricia. Don't let the talk get to you.
She took the check and went back to her cows, where her latest test showed 0 somatic cells in 3 samples. The gossip didn't matter. A week later, Dr. Harris called a university researcher, Dr. Collins, who specialized in early disease detection.
Harris, if your claim is true, this would be the first sensory diagnostic case documented in cattle.
She arrived the next morning, carrying a portable lab, infrared, ultrasound, and a phonocardiograph.
Patricia, I'll record your routine. Just work as usual, and I'll gather data.
Patricia walked to her cow, Charlotte, and pressed her ear against the flank.
The skin here is warmer than yesterday. She's early immune response.
Collins scanned the same spot with the infrared scope. The readout showed a localized temperature spike.
That can't be felt by touch. Not that precisely.
In the next hour, Patricia found 3 more issues, each confirmed by the instruments.
I want to publish this. With your consent, we can change how farms detect illness.
Patricia agreed, and for 6 weeks, Dr. Collins returned every Tuesday, attaching sensors that measured skin temperature, heart rate, and respiratory acoustics while she worked. When Collins finally crunched the numbers, the results made her hand shake. Patricia's diagnostic accuracy exceeded 98%, with a false positive rate below 1.
Patricia, do you realize what this means? Your ears and hands are outperforming lab cultures by a factor of 4. It's not a miracle. It's just paying attention.
That afternoon, Collins drafted a paper for the Journal of Dairy Science, listing Patricia Harper as the primary case study. Meanwhile, Patricia walked to the county extension office and filled out the entry form for the state dairy championship. Her 3-year-old Jersey, Charlotte, would compete.
She's entering the state show? That blind girl? This I have to see. She'll embarrass herself in front of the whole county.
Charlotte's flank is cool today. No stress. She's ready.
She posted the registration form on the barn wall, right next to her grandfather's old photograph. The challenge was set. In 3 weeks, she would lead Charlotte into that ring while the whole state watched. The paper dropped online 2 weeks before the fair. Sensory Diagnostics in Dairy Herds, a case study of Patricia Harper, hit the agricultural journals, and then the local news. Ronald read the article in the same diner, his coffee cooling. Outside, his best cow had dropped dead that morning from untreated ketosis.
98% accuracy. That's not science. That's a hoax.
The other farmers fell quiet. Even they knew what a double-blind study meant.
She's a blind woman in a show barn. The cows will spook. The judge will pity her, and it'll be a sideshow.
We can settle that at the fair. But first, you might want to check your own herd.
You don't know anything about my herd.
I know you lost one this morning. I could hear it in your voice when you came in. See you at the fair, Ronald.
She left the diner without another word. Ronald sat down hard, the newspaper crumpling in his fist. Outside, his thin cows bellowed in the mud. The state fair was 8 days away. For the first time, Ronald felt the weight of everything he'd said. Patricia arrived at the state fairgrounds alone before dawn, her white cane tapping the pavement as she unloaded Charlotte from the trailer.
Charlotte's breathing is steady. The travel didn't stress her. Good.
She led Charlotte into the stall and began grooming by touch, her hands running over every muscle and tendon, feeling for any warmth or stiffness. Other exhibitors paused in their own work to watch. A blind woman preparing a show cow with no help was something they'd never seen. Ronald's cows were unloaded across the aisle, their ribs visible and coats dull, a stark contrast to Charlotte's glossy hide.
They'll fill out before judging, always do.
But the other dairymen saw the hollow eyes and knew what empty talk sounded like. Judge Miller entered the barn, his clipboard under his arm, nodding to exhibitors as he passed. He paused at Patricia's stall.
Good morning, Judge Miller.
The judging would start in an hour, and the barn was filling with murmurs and expectation. When the class was called, Patricia led Charlotte into the ring, her white cane unfolding as she found the line. She placed Charlotte with the same quiet precision she used in her own barn, the cane touching the sawdust edge. Handlers around the ring stared, some skeptical, some curious, as Charlotte arched her neck at a quiet click from Patricia. Judge Miller approached, his sharp eyes noting the depth of Charlotte's udder and the clean angle of her legs.
Stay steady, girl. He's just another pair of hands.
He checked her udder attachment, the firmness of her rear, then opened her mouth to read her teeth. The crowd in the grandstand fell into that rare silence when something careful and unusual is happening. He stepped back, wrote something on his clipboard, and then moved to the next cow.
He saw what I feel. She's perfect underneath.
The class finished, and the ring announcer called back the top entries. Charlotte's number rang out, and Patricia led her forward. The ring announcer's voice called the results. Grand Champion Dairy Female, entry 214. Patricia Harper's Charlotte. The grandstand erupted. For the first time, a blind handler had won the highest award.
Grandpa, we did it. Charlotte's a champion.
Judge Miller pressed the heavy purple ribbon into her hands. She felt the satin with her thumb. In the third row, Ronald didn't clap. His mouth was open, his face gray. Patricia didn't smile for the cameras. She just turned and pressed her forehead against Charlotte's warm neck.
I can hear her heart. It's steady.
Later, she hung the ribbon on the barn wall and traced the raised letters with her fingertips. Ronald sat alone in the bleachers long after the crowd left, staring at the empty ring. That month, 3 more of his cows had died. He was out of time, and for the first time he knew it. The morning after the fair, the state agricultural paper ran Patricia's photo on the front page with the headline, "Blind Dairy Woman Wins State Championship." Ronald didn't see the paper that morning. He was in his barn, staring at the veterinary bills stacked on a feed cart.
7 dead. 7. How am I going to pay this?
A week later, the co-op sent a formal notice. His bulk tank cell count had crossed the legal limit. He had 30 days to fix it, or the co-op would suspend his contract. His remaining cows were bony, their eyes sunken. He couldn't remember the last time he'd called the vet. He walked to the fence and looked across at Patricia's green pastures, where her herd grazed, fat and healthy. That afternoon, he found the county newspaper with her picture. He read the article twice.
She was right about that heifer. She's been right about everything.
He lowered the paper and looked toward her barn. The girl he'd mocked was the only person in the county who could save him, but he didn't move. Pride held his boots to the dirt. 2 days before the co-op deadline, Ronald pulled his truck onto Patricia's lane and parked by the fence. Through the open barn door, he saw Patricia working alone, her hands moving over a cow with quiet certainty. She pressed her ear against the cow's flank and listened, her expression utterly calm.
All this time, I've been the blind one.
He couldn't walk in. He got back in the truck and drove home, the memory of her calm face burning in his mind. That night, his hand shook as he dialed her number.
Patricia, it's Ronald. I need to talk to you.
I know why you are calling. Come to the farm tomorrow morning.
He hung up. The deal wasn't made yet, but he had crossed the line. Patricia hung up the phone and listened to the quiet. Tomorrow, the man who'd mocked her would be at her door asking for help. Ronald stood on the farmhouse porch, turning his cap in his hands like a boy called to the principal's office.
Patricia, I don't know how to say this. My cows are dying. I need you.
Patricia listened, her face calm and unreadable. Without a word, she walked inside. She came back, carrying a worn ledger, its pages marked with Braille stickers.
My grandfather wrote down everything, including the milk route payments you shorted him in 1994. The 12th of April, 1994. You paid 2.80 mine per hundredweight, when the going rate was 3.10.
The blood drained from Ronald's face. He remembered the new tractor that year, the way he'd bragged about saving on freight.
That was 30 years ago. You can't be serious.
The fee to consult on your herd is exactly what you underpaid, adjusted for inflation. $4,200, payable before I set foot in your barn.
Ronald's mouth opened and closed like a fish. The girl he'd mocked was naming his price, and he had nowhere else to go. Ronald stepped back, his hands trembling at his sides. He tried to argue, but his voice came out strained and tight.
$4,000? Patricia, be reasonable. That's more than I can get by tomorrow. The herd is almost gone.
Patricia didn't move an inch. She let the silence do its work, and it cut deeper than any word.
The price is the price. You are not here to negotiate. You are here because you have no other choice.
Ronald closed his eyes. The faces of his dead cows flickered behind his lids.
I've got nothing left. No pride, no herd. This is all I have. Okay, fine. I'll pay it. I don't have a choice.
Patricia extended her hand. Her voice was calm but unyielding.
7 o'clock. Bring your checkbook. We start then. Don't be late.
He took her hand, the grip firm and final. Then he walked back to his truck, his shoulders bowed under a weight heavier than any debt. At sunrise, Patricia walked into Ronald's barn, her cane tapping the dirty floor. The air was thick with the smell of illness. She stopped at the first thin jersey and ran her hand along the udder, feeling the heat beneath the skin.
This one's udder is hot. Mastitis starting. You've been feeding moldy hay.
How do you know it's moldy? I can't smell anything.
The dust in the air. The coughs you've been ignoring.
At the next stall, she leaned in and smelled the cow's breath.
Sweet. That's ketosis. Change the grain ration immediately.
I've walked past these cows every day. I never noticed.
For the next 3 hours, they moved through the herd, Patricia diagnosing issues Ronald had ignored for months. He followed, writing notes as fast as his hands could move.
Your herd can recover, but you'll have to start listening to what they're telling you.
2 weeks later, the new ration took hold. Ronald's cows began to fill out, their dull coats shedding in patches, revealing glossy hide beneath. Patricia returned and walked the herd again, her hands reading the new warmth of health.
The mastitis is gone. Ketosis cleared. You could teach this now?
I nearly killed them with my own stubbornness. You saved my farm.
He followed her back to her own barn to see the Grand Champion ribbon, its purple satin a bright slash on the wall. She traced the raised letters with her fingers, the same way she had that day.
She earned that with nothing but touch and sound, while I laughed.
The co-op's next test showed his bulk tank count falling fast. They lifted the suspension warning. Ronald stood at his fence and watched his herd grazing, a gratitude in his chest that felt like an ache, but the debt still hung between them. A check not yet written, a wrong not yet fully repaid. The next afternoon, Ronald pulled into Patricia's lane once more, a folded check in his shirt pocket.
$4,200. It's all there.
Patricia extended her hand, her pale eyes fixed somewhere past him. She didn't smile.
You remember the date this covers, the 12th of April 1994.
Ronald nodded, his jaw tight. The number on the check was the same one she'd read from her grandfather's ledger. She took the check and ran her thumb over the embossed bank seal, then folded it into her vest pocket.
Your herd is healthy now. Don't forget why.
She tapped the old map of the milk route, the underpayment circled in red, the evidence of his theft, now a receipt of his payment. He had no answer. He just nodded once and turned toward the door. Patricia listened to his footsteps fade down the lane. The debt finally closed. 30 years of silence settled into its proper place. The following Tuesday, Ronald sat at the diner counter alone, stirring his coffee without a word. The farmers at the corner booth glanced at him, then at each other. No one laughed, no one even smiled. When the door opened and Patricia walked in, her white cane tapping softly on the linoleum, the room shifted. Men nodded. A few murmured good morning. One removed his cap. A farmer at the counter said, "Heard you are taking Charlotte to the next county show. She's a credit to you."
She's earned her rest, but thank you.
Ronald looked down at his cup. His mouth stayed closed. The newspaper on the counter still carried her championship photo, a permanent record of what he had missed. He paid for his coffee, nodded once toward Patricia, and left without a joke. The blind girl now had the best herd in the state, and not a soul in that diner doubted it. That evening, Patricia stood in the barn with Charlotte, the grand champion ribbon casting a soft purple glow on the stall wall.
We proved them wrong, girl.
She reached up and traced the ribbon's raised letters with her fingertips, the same way she had after the fair.
We did it, Grandpa. The herd is safe.
She walked to her grandfather's photo on the wall, her steps unerring, and touched the glass.
Your herd is still winning.
The barn was quiet, the soft rhythm of cows breathing filling the air, each one a note she knew by heart.
I can hear them, all 40. Perfect.
She leaned her cane against the stall and rested her cheek on Charlotte's warm neck. Outside, the last light faded over the pastures, and inside, the blind girl who listened better than anyone could see was exactly where she was meant to be.